We're now on Daf Samach Daled Amid Beis. Hakafa beregel. We made a mistake. We thought that the Kohen Gadol was already handed the yayin when he started his whole procedure of Hakafas HaMizbeach, and that Rabbi Yochanan said would endanger the yayin if it'll absorb the smoke. But instead, the Gemara says no. The Mishnah is talking about a case where he circles around the Mizbeach beregel. Beregel means on foot. He's not holding the wine. So there's no chash that the wine will absorb the smoke. Now the question is, why is he ascending the mizbeach if he's not holding the yayin? And the answer is because he wants to perform any of the other avodos. He has that prerogative. That's the Kohen Gadol's prerogative. So in the case of a regular Kohen, when he goes up to the Mizbeach, he's going to do one particular avoda. Whatever it is, let's say he was zocha to the avoda of the Olas HaBoker, the Talmud Shel Shachar, whatever it might be. So in his case, he's going to have to go counterclockwise around the entire Mizbeach if he's been chosen to do the Nisuch Yayin Mayim or the Avodas Ha'of, meaning Olas Ha'of. But in our case, the Kohen Gadol is going up to the top of the Mizbeach to perform whatever avodah he's doing. For example, he may take the various avarim of the ola and put it on the fire. So therefore, since he's already going up to the avodah up to the mizbeach for a different avodah, they didn't give him the yayin in his hands until after he would finish his avodas ha'olah, which he chose to take. So therefore, he's going to do the hakafas of mizbeach without the yayin in his hands, and he'll go around the mizbeach counterclockwise, and then when he finishes, they'll give him the yayin for nisuch. But a regular kohen, as we said, he's going up to perform the yayin, the nisuch hayayin. He's going to go up the kevesh with wine in his hand. Otherwise, why is he going up to kevesh? He only has that avodah. He's not doing. They never gave two avodos to one kohen. That was the whole point of the pious of the lottery, that each kohen would get one avodah. But in the case of Kohen Gadol, he's like the, what do they call it in cards? The joker card. He could take any avodah that he wants. So he took the avodah of the olah, and now he's going to throw the avarim of the olah onto the maroch on the mizbeach, and he doesn't have wine in his hands. He's going to make the whole circle around the mizbeach, and then we'll give him the wine for the nisuch. Omar Rava Dekanami the Ketoni. I could be medayik this from our Mishnah. The Mishnah says Nostin lo yayin linaseach, and it seems like lo Ketoni Omer lo naseach. It's if he had the wine when he went up, then they would have just said, "Now it's time to do the nisuch, pour the yayin." No. They said Nostin lo yayin. In other words, he didn't have the yayin in his hand. Shma mina. That's a clear indication. Torah Rabbanu, we learned in a brayso, Kol ha'olim l'mizbeach olim derech yamin. When you go up to the Mizbeach, then you go on the right side, which is also called the Darom, right? Because the Kevish is on the Darom, and when you turn towards the Mizrach, you're turning right. But Yardim, when you're on your way down, Derech Small, right? So you're on the left side of the Kevish, right? The width of the Kevish is 16 Amma. Olim Derech Mizrach, right? That's what we said, that when he goes up from the south, where the Kevish is on the Darom, he's going to go towards the Mizrach, and that means he turns to the right. But Yardim, on his way down, Derech Mayrov, on the west side. So what's going to happen is the Kohen gets to the top of the Mizbeach, he turns to the right to go around the Mizbeach, and that's based on the principle called Pnio Shetapona and Apona El Yamin. He goes towards the right. When he comes down off the left side of the top of the Mizbeach. Again, if you're looking from the Kevesh, it's the left side. When he went up the Kevesh, he ascended on the right-hand side, which is called the Mizrach, to avoid needlessly crossing the 16 arm of the ramp. As we said, he's got to be on the right side, so he's going to go up the right side of the ramp. So too, when he goes down from the ramp, he's going to go down on the western or the left side of the ramp. Again, if you're looking from the view of the bottom of the ramp, because this is the first side he would encounter upon completing his circuit of the Mizbeach. With the exception of the Nisuch, Mayim, Nisuch Yayim, plus the Avodas Olas Ha'of. Sha'olim Derech Marov, they go up on the west side of the Kevesh, V'yardim Derech Marov, and they retrace their steps going down on the same western side. Now, if he has to turn west when he gets to the top of the Kevesh, he would ascend on the western side, and then after he finishes his avoda, he retraces his steps and descends the same way that he came down, as we saw in the Mishnah Daf Samach Gimel. Now, there's something very strange going on in this price. It says Olim Derech Yamin, the Yardim Derech Yamin. That doesn't make any sense. We just said that Olim Derech Marav, the Yardim Derech Marav. Very strange. So Derech Marav is on the left. So how could it say here the right? Omer Avino, Tni, small. You have to change the price and it should say small. Rav Amar, Rav says no. It could be a min, but it depends what perspective you're looking at. From one perspective, if you're looking for the kevesh, it's going to be on the left side. But my yamin to mizbeach. But as far as its relationship to the mizbeach itself, then it's on the right side of the mizbeach. My small legavra. But with regard to small, it means the left of the person as he faces the mizbeach. Okay, this is a sugya here. V'nisnei o idi v'idi mizbeach o idi v'idi gavra. Why does he switch from the perspective from the mizbeach and the perspective from the person? Kasha, that's the difficulty. Okay, now we're going to start the Mishnah on Daf Samach Dalid Omid Beis, and now we're dealing with the chatos. I'm sorry, with the chatos ha'of. Now again, we already began discussing the chatos ha'of, but now the Mishnah is going to get into more details about the corner of the Mizbeach, which we said was the Dorom Myrav if there's an overflow. So Ketzad Ha'of, Chatos Ha'of Ketzad, Hayanases, how is it performed? Here, by the way, you have to take out this whole piece in the Mishnah. Anyway, it should say, Hayamolek es Rosho Mimul Arpa. Right, the Malika was performed on the head of the Ola at the Arpa, Mimul Arpa. And he translates into English Arpa as nape. So again, we do Malika, we don't use a knife like Shechita. And the Torah says that the Malika of the neck of the bird is done at the point which is called Mul Arpa, on the opposite of its orif. Now, the orif is the back of the head. The opposite of the orif is the nape. So let's just go over that one more time. Sorry. The orif is the back of the head. Right? So I guess if you're looking at the face of the bird, then the back of its head is the orif. Is basically the back of the neck. You follow what I mean? In any event, the orif is the back of the neck, which is facing the back of the head. And then v'eno mavdil. So with regard to chatas ha'of, there's no avdol. We'll see in olas ha'of that's different. But in chatas ha'of, he has to make sure not to separate the head of the bird, of the chatas bird, from the body when he does malika. Because the Torah says, "Umolak es rosho mimul orpom filo yavdil." And Rashi says that what's havdola? Again, this will be more relevant when we get to olas ha'of, but he says separation of the head from the body means that both the esophagus and the windpipe are cut. Those are the two simonim. In shchita, we require cutting of only one of the two simonim, right? Either the esophagus or the trachea. And the same thing is parallel here in the case of malika. So therefore, there's no avdol because he's only cutting one of the two. Okay, what else? Umaza midoma al kira mizbeach. Right, this is the hazah, and the hazah is on the wall of the mizbeach, and it's got to be on the doramarov. Shiore hadam mismatze al hayisod. Like mismatze means he would like squeeze it, whatever dam was left, and that went down to the yisod. V'ein la mizbeach el adama. In other words, as opposed to a zevach, right, where there's meat, there's nothing that the mizbeach gets, right? In a zevach, you burn the meat on the mizbeach, but not in the case of oaf. So what does the mizbeach get, so to speak? All it gets is the dam. V'kula kohen. So whatever is left of the chatas, it's a very small amount, but that meat of the chatas is eaten by the kohen. Obviously, that's not the case in olas ha'of, which is kulei kolil. Taner Rabbanu, we learned in a brisa, and now we're going to try to teach that the hazah of the chatas ha'of is performed in the following way: v'hiza midama chatos, right? He sprinkles the blood from the chatos, miguf hachatos, directly from the bird of the chatos. There's no kli sharis. In other words, in all Zevachim, the dam is first received in a kli, but not in the case of an oaf. So what does he do? He doesn't receive the dam in a vessel and then throw the blood from the vessel as done for Zevachim. He shakes the bird towards the mizbeach, and the blood sprays directly from the bird's neck onto the mizbeach. Ha'ketzad oches berosh ubeguf umazer. So he holds on to the head and the body of the chatas ha'of and sprinkles the blood or sprays the blood directly from the neck of the bird onto the mizbeach. Now, is he actually holding on to the head and the body? That's the impression you get. But Rashi says that he grasps the bird with the head, and the head is still attached to the body because we said v'lo yavdil. So again, he's grasping the bird with the head, and it's still attached to the body. Ochez b'rosh u'b'guf u'mazeh al kira mizbeach. Came back to the pasuk. V'lo al kira kevesh. V'lo al kira heichal. V'lo al kir ulam. V'ezeh, right? The wall of the altar has two parts, the top and the bottom. Zekir tachton. Right? We said that the olas hachatos is lamat me'achut hasikra. That's in the bottom 5 amos, which is very good, by the way, because if you go up 6 amos from the floor of the Azorah to the height of 6 amos in the Mizbeah, then you have the what's it called, the you have the not the so the ledge of the Mizbeach, right? And then the dam couldn't flow down because, but if it's below that, below the Chut HaSik, it's only 5 amos, so you don't have that blockage to block the dam from going down to the Yisod. Oh, Eina Elakir Elyon. I might think that maybe like the Olas Ha'of, the Chatas Ha'of requires that the dam go on the upper part of the wall of Mizbech. Dinhu. Uma Behema Shalasa Lamata. In the case of an Olas Behema, the dam is Lamata, is Chatasa Lamala. Right? So in the case of an ola, the behema goes lamala. But in the case of a chatos, of a behema, the dam is lamala. Is of she'olaso lamala, enudin shechatoso lamala. So we're going to derive chatoso from olaso. And if olaso is lamala, then chatoso should be lamala. Just like we saw in the case of a zevach behema, that the ol is mata, and yet the chatas, right? In the korban ola it's lamata, but in the case of a chatas lamala, so of, where even the ola has to be lamala, is certainly the chata should be lamala. Talmud lomar, but we derive from a pasuk v'hanishar badam yimotze el yisodam mizbeach. So whatever is left of the dam, if there is anything left of the dam, then you do the mitzui, the squeezing onto the yisod. Is kir shashirayim shalom ismatzim liyisod zekir tachta. Right, we said that the blood has to be on the bottom, and that's where it goes down to the yisod. And that was saying that the original avoda has to be lemata, so that the blood could drain down to the yisod, and that's called the mitzvah adam, el yisodim mizbeach, zekir atachta. Frek the Gemara v'navid mi loy v'hoder navid mi tachtoi. Why can't you apply this kal v'chomer and draw the logical conclusion that the sprinkling of the dam could be on the top half of the mizbeach, and then let him squeeze whatever's left in the oaf on the bottom part, so it'll go down to the yisod. Omar Rova miksiv yimatze. Okay, here there's a whole discussion about how to put the vocals in. Yimatze ksiv to b'meila mashma. So if we would have said yimatze, that means he's got to squeeze it. That would mean that he can squeeze it on the top part of the mizbeach. But it doesn't say that. It says yimatze in the nifal, to b'meila mashma. Right, that the blood has to drip down. So if the blood has to drip down by itself, and that's called yimatze, then it must be that the dam itself was placed on the bottom half of the mizbeach, so that now by itself the blood could now drip down to the Yisod of Mizbeach. But if it would have said Yematze in the active sense, right, Loshen Kal, then we would have implied that maybe he's going to squeeze the dam onto the top half of the Mizbeach. And then whatever dam goes down afterwards, that's fine. Let's just see if we can get to, so this next part of the Gemara needs a lot of work. The Gemara is going to talk about exactly how you do the Malika. And there's going to be a machlokas here between Rav and a Brisa, believe it or not. So once again, I apologize. This really was way beyond my pay scale. How do we do the Malika on a chatas ha'of? Oches gapov are the wings of the bird. Bishtei etzbos. Okay, so the bird itself is in his palm, but the wings are between his two fingers. Now, which two fingers? That's what we're going to try to figure out. Ushtei raglayim bishtei etzbos, but he also has to hold on to the legs of the bird with another two fingers. So he says the following, based on Rashi. Again, there's a lot here, but basically the wings he has to hold with his middle finger, that's the longer finger, and the index finger. Right? So he's got the wings between these two fingers. Then he's got to get the raglayim, the legs of the bird, and he's holding them between his pinky and the ring finger. Whoa. Very difficult to imagine how he does this. Umolka. But Masnisa Tana, however, we have a brisa that disagrees with Rav. Sifra milabar. The bird was not in the hand of the Kohen, but was outside the Kohen's hand. Because the brisa says, Oches gapa b'shtei etzbos, right? He's holding the wings with two fingers. Shtei raglayim b'shtei etzbos. Umoteach tzavoro, right? He stretches the throat of the animal. Al rochav shtei etzbosov, on the inner width of his two fingers. Umolik. So basically, according to the brisa, as opposed to Rav, the bird was on the outside of the Kohen's hand, not inside the Kohen's hand. In any event, zu avoda kosher shemikdash. This was the difficult. Now, the implication is that there was no other difficult avoda in the mikdash. Frek the Gemara zu v'hi v'sulo. There are no other avodas that are difficult. For ika kmitza. Okay, the kmitza is very, very complicated because he's not allowed to allow any bit of the solas to go outside of his hand. The chafina was the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippurim when he went in Lifnai V'Lifnei, he took, an amount of ketores in his two hands, and these were difficult avodas. In the case of kmitza, the Kohen bends the middle three fingers of his right hand over his palm, forms a hollow, and the flour fills this hollow, which is called a kometz, and it's removed from the mincha and burnt on the mizbeach. The Kohen must use his little finger and thumb to carefully brush off the kometz in the hollow so that the kometz is neither overflows nor deficient. Chafina requires that the Kohen Gadol pours a double handful of incense from the pan, the machvas he's holding back, into his cupped hands. Very difficult. That's the sugya in Yuma. Ella emo, we should say zu avoda may kosher me avodas kosher of English. Meaning, what the brisa meant to say is that there are many, or at least another two avodas koshos, which are kmitza and chafina. But the most difficult of them all is going to be the malika bechatas ha'of. That leads us to the Mishnah here on Daf Samach Daled Amud Beis. Okay, then I wish you a great day. Thank you so much.